Okay, everybody. Well, welcome to Kingdom Hearts. Where do we go now? Which is really funny because I never thought that'd kind of be a question I'd have to say 2 years after Kingdom Hearts 3. But after the state of the series, I felt like it was kind of appropriate. So my name is Spencer Presley. I have an awkwardly sized microphone in front of my face, but I'm glad you are all here at NakaCon 2021. And yes, this is going to be, it can be as much me talking to all of you as interacting as possible, because we're mostly just going to be kind of talking about recent stuff, talking about what the future can hold. Open floor. If anyone has a question or wants to say anything, just put your hand up and I'll point to you, and then you can spout your thoughts as much as you would like. So, let's start off with not Kingdom Hearts 3, because the world is a flat circle. Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. So basically, I was kind of curious because I'm in the weird boat of all of my friends. I loved Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. I thought it was like one of the best DLC things I've ever played in my life. With the really interesting exception of, it's probably one of the least friendly DLCs I've ever played in my life. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, this is great. It's the hardest content in the whole series, and if you aren't good, you'll never get to fight the hottest Sprouse twin. Yes.
It's kind of like hell, but beyond hell.
But you paid for it. It's very expensive hell, which was funny because by the time the DLC came out, like, you could get the game for $20 and the DLC was $30. But just like show of hands or show of woos, whatever anyone wants to do, who here has actually played Remind? And then is there anyone here who has played Kingdom Hearts 3 but did not play Remind? So for all of you people who played it, was it like, I just don't want to pay it, I wanted to wait? Was there like a reason?
I was busy on other games and stuff, and then with everything that happened, I was actually one of the weird people that was super busy in 2020, for like the entire year, so I just didn't really have time to get into it yet.
No, I get that. For everyone who did play the DLC, though, was anyone in the camp of, like, wasn't happy with it, would have enjoyed more of it? I figured if you're the type who would come to a Kingdom Hearts panel, you'd probably be like, oh yeah, this is all me. So the funny thing, though, I kind of wanted to talk about with Remind is bit of a weird question for like bouncing off with it before, because it's funny of like, it's not an easy recommendation even to someone who is like a fan. So I personally loved all of 3, even though I know it has lots of warts and stuff. But what was so funny about it was, I think Nomura and all of Square Enix have a lot of balls to just sell you DLC that is replay the ending of this game from a year ago. Like, I think that was a really an interesting choice. But I was in the weird camp of, like, I liked it. I thought it was interesting I think it would have been bad if it was just play as Roxas now, play as Mickey now. The context of you're going back in time, because really, on paper, it looks like you're just replaying the entirety of 3 over again, but you're playing over after the events of 3. Like that really tiny window of pre-Kyrie's gone and post-Sora's gone. Oh, by the way, lots of spoilers here. I would hope no one is coming in here not knowing spoilers. So the weird thing with it was, yeah, the idea of, okay, how are we going to explain why Sora disappeared, how Kyrie came back, and in the way that kind of makes sense for it. I thought it was I thought it was handled really, really well, but it was so funny of, I think while a lot of people played Kingdom Hearts 3, you either liked it or didn't like it. That's a totally separate conversation. With Remind, I feel like only the diehards played it. I feel like some people just straight up kind of forgot Remind came out if you didn't like 3, which makes sense. But I was curious if anyone had any like thoughts or opinions of like, why do you think Remind sort of felt like the best it probably could have been for like DLC, but wasn't really like, hasn't been super fondly remembered over the last year? True, but I mean, with this one, it would be more of the thing of saying, like, I think the reasons you could say you don't like Kingdom Hearts 3 aren't necessarily the reasons someone might not love Remind. I think, and this is a weird one, I'd be curious what you all think about this. How do you think the reception would have been if we took ourselves way back to the PS2 days, and a year after Kingdom Hearts 3, in 2020, they just resold us Kingdom Hearts 3, called it Final Mix, charged like $40-$50 for it, and you had to replay the whole game to play the new content. I know everyone probably would be like, oh, that sucks, because no one likes really doing that for it. But I think when you make that as like a individual release, it makes it a little more, okay, I can go to a store, I can get this. Like having to explain to someone, if you want to experience all of Kingdom Hearts story, okay, play this game, then download this DLC, which will involve you replaying that game you just beat again, and then there'll be more hard stuff after it. It had a lot of like extra steps to it, where if it was just like play through the game beginning to end, because even when the game came out, it was like almost a year or so really in between the release. I wasn't even someone like me, I wasn't the most freshly up to date with the endings of 3 of like, okay, is this the same? Because really, I think if you blindfolded someone and said, okay, Ansem is now Doc Brown from Back to the Future, everything else is the same, they'd be like, okay, I got this makes sense to me. Actually, show of hands or whatever. Who here actually liked the new voice of not Ansem, the new voice of Xemnas? No, not Xemnas. I see my brain so mixed up for it. But yeah, who enjoyed Xehanort's new voice at all compared to the original one? Or would you say more people are into the old voice? Or yeah. Yeah, so I'm referring to Rutger Hauer did his voice in 3 and then was replaced by, why am I forgetting his name now? But old guy voice from Back to the Future. I just said it, yeah. Yeah. So just curious, like, was the voice change weird for you guys? Would you have preferred a different actor? Like, because I feel like so few people kind of talked about Remind, I feel like the main villain being recasted for a third time, no one really talked about. But like no one's super against it. No one has any like kind of thoughts for it. I will say, wasn't weird hearing him in Remind. Very weird hearing him in Melody of Memory. Has a very very weird IMDb for it. But before I get off of Remind, I'm glad so many of you have actually played it for it. Just out of curiosity, who here has beaten Yozora? I appreciate you all for being honest, and congratulations to you for having beaten him. Yeah, beat the final superest of super bosses, yeah. Okay. Yeah, what's up?
Do you know about the meaning of the logo that was in 3
With like the Circle Plus. I haven't done too much research into that for it, but I'm sure it has something if anyone has any idea. Did you?
Yeah, so it's called a coda, and a coda is used in like sheet music, where you can play through the whole of the song, and then if there's a coda symbol, you go back like a few measures and then play through the end of the song.
Which then goes all back into the whole thing of going back in time, doing it over again. Actually, I will say, if there is anyone out there who doesn't like the whole having to do it all over again thing, the game kind of warned us. You literally have to go back and do the ending twice in the base game of Kingdom Hearts 3, so it really only makes sense to do the ending 3 times in Kingdom Hearts 3. So next up, hot takes coming here. Melody of Memory was legitimately like my favorite game released last year, if not like one of my like top 3. Very unpopular opinion, but I'm like, this is like the most Spencer Beatty Spencer release ever of like, I love Kingdom Hearts, I love rhythm games, and I'm a huge fan of the team who developed all the rhythm games and stuff. So just out of curiosity, show of hands or woos, who actually played Melody of Memory? Who actually liked Melody of Memory? So, like, for the people who were, like, a little more hesitant, was it because it was a rhythm game that turned you off? Was it because it was $60 at launch? I know it came out at the worst time. It came out the same day as, like, PlayStation and Xbox releasing.
Honestly, it was more so the 3D segments. Like,
really?
Lining up the notes with the actual thing in front, like, it felt like it was always somewhat off. It felt like I had to kind of adjust to the gameplay.
Yeah, you're not the only one I know who said it's felt off and odd for it, but my brain must be broken.
I love the theory of the game myself, so I kind of went in like expecting to love it.
Mm-hmm. And you had some?
Oh, I was about to say, like, it was surprising.
Yeah.
I felt like spending more though, and it's just like,
It's tough, especially because like I think saying, oh, it's a $60 rhythm game, even if it has story, that's a tough ask unless you're really irresponsible with money like myself. But I think when you break it down, it makes a little bit more sense. It's like it's over 150 songs. There's no DLC. It's pretty lengthy, even if you just want to play through all the songs once. And the amount of work they really did is like there's very little kind of copy and paste for it, which is funny considering the fact that the game is literally just reusing PS2 assets the whole time. I will say, if anyone wants any reason to check it out, if you haven't already, it has been deep discounted for the longest time. You can get it for like $20, brand new. It's super cheap all over the place. There is a demo if you have not checked it out, which I think the demo probably might have done more harm than good, if anything. Yeah? Oh, yeah. But the other thing, though, that is kind of funny that is not a spoiler, but when I saw it, I was like, this game is instantly worth it for any amount of money. They made a PS2 model of Kingdom Hearts 3 Sora, and it's like the best thing ever. Like, someone had to go back in time and make PS2 asset Sora with all of his running animations, and it was like the best thing ever for me. I was very, very pleased with that. Also, weird one. This is the first Kingdom Hearts game on Switch. Did anyone actually play this on Switch? Yeah, so it's kind of funny of like this being the first one, like for any of you Switch players out there, was that weird? Was it like nice? I remember playing the demo on it. It was like, it's cool, but I was like so used to getting my trophies. I was like, I'm good, like not playing it there, but it was nice to release it everywhere. I thought it was cool it released everywhere once. Any Switch people have any thoughts?
Not really a thought, but the trophies in-game are the same as the trophies in the PS4 game.
Very true. And as someone who has completed and platinumed this game, if anyone wants to do it, don't. Just don't do that. My wife can attest. I had to replay, because there's like one trophy is the worst in the entire game. It's like defeat, I think, 100,000 enemies. And it just involves you playing a 9-minute song for 7 hours on a Saturday as your wife just tells you, stop, please, stop. You don't need, this is not a real trophy. They're not going to mail you anything. And I just keep doing it. So next up, boy, we're just really coming in with the hot bangers here. Who here played Kingdom Hearts Unchained, Union Key, blah, 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 all the mobile versions? Okay, and now keep your hands up. Were you sad? Oh, sorry, keep your hands up if you were. Were you sad when it ended? So this was a weird one for me of I loved Kingdom Hearts. Oh, I love Kingdom Hearts Key, all of its releases, even the dumb PC one we never got. But the weirdest thing about it was when it ended last year. Actually, no, it was this year. Again, time is a flat circle. I have no memory of anything, and I don't know where I am. Was anyone really surprised when they were like, hey, we're ending it? The only thing I thought was kind of interesting about that was like, I think it was kind of quick for them to end it considering how quickly Dark Road had just happened and finished, but I think it just clearly showed they weren't committed to keeping it going, which, like, I'm at least glad they made the app, like, it's not worthless. You can still go back and check out the story for it, and it has prevalence for the story for the most part, but it's one of those things of, like, I'll have friends come up to me who are really big into Kingdom Hearts, and they'll be like, oh, should I check out, or did I miss anything with the mobile games? And I'm like, honestly, no. Like, there's a lot of great moments in it. There are fun things. I liked playing it. It has it has a lot of interesting setups. But I think for me, it was one of those weird ones of like, I never felt like I wasted my time. I definitely dumped more money in it than I should have. The fact that it got someone like me who is not a gacha fan to play hours and hours of this, I thought was really, really good. Oh, what? Oh, see, even that one, yeah. I'm such an anti-gacha thing. Like, the only thing that got me into this one was because it had story. If it didn't have story, as much as I love those dumb JPEGs, I would have been like, goodbye. But did anyone here have any, like, Unchained Key thoughts, memories, things they want to, like, vent about it if you hated its guts out?
Okay, so I have a Sora account on Instagram, and I'm in like this whole big group chat of people on Instagram. So, when they announced that it was stopping, it was really interesting because I saw a lot of people like, oh, I downloaded it, should I just re-download it again to go through it and stuff? And there were a lot of people that were sad about it, but then there were a lot of people kind of like, but all I know is that after the ending, and I won't say anything about the ending, but after the ending, everybody was just like, wait, what?
Yeah, it never, even though they had announced it as an ending and they present it as an ending, it's not sad. It's like, Do you remember that special 3-month period of when Kingdom Hearts 2.8 was going to release? And they said, guys, we're going to make the mobile version into a cutscene and it'll all make sense. Forget the mobile game. If you watch this, it'll make total... If someone has only seen that cutscene from, it's like Backside Key or whatever, that tells you nothing. You need to pay so much attention to the story to watch that cutscene. It's like, what are you telling me? It's just a bunch of furries wearing masks and beating each other up for no reason. Like, what is this world? Like, and what's funny is, like, if you pay attention, those furries wearing masks beating up a bunch of little kids, it's a great story, but, like, they present it terribly. So... It stinks. It's like, I find it funny, like, the Kingdom Hearts games that are the least accessible, I have the fondest attachments to. It's like, I love 358 and I love Recoded. I would love for those to get remade. I think even the Key Story could easily get like a 3D remake and would be, if you trimmed a lot of the fat, it could be really interesting. The sad part is, I think if they announced another Key game, it would somehow just continue on assuming you knew all of it and then confuse everybody. Like, I think when people joke about Kingdom Hearts being confusing, you need to tell them, have you played the mobile game, though? Because you can understand all of the console story very easily. The mobile story is like if you type in, as I was doing research for this, if you type in Kingdom Hearts Key or just Kingdom Hearts mobile game, the second Google autofill question is, did you want to find out who killed Lucrezia? It's that common? Like, that no one knows who killed the central character? Like, you're all this confused. Like, this is a game that was played by millions of people, and we're like, who killed the central plot? And even when you read the description, it's like, I guess. Dark Blob killed her, thanks. I mean, I love finding out the person known as Darkness did a thing. Dark Road, I will say, what a kind of sad, wet fart of an idea. Because I remember... Well, hey... She's still waiting for dinner. I will say, they probably could have announced Dark Road a little bit better. Does anyone remember how they announced this game? There was a Twitter contest. They said, all right, guys, we have a new name for a Kingdom Hearts game, and because you like to make fun of us so much, who can guess what our new Kingdom Hearts game is called? And they just presented it as like, it is a new Kingdom Hearts game. You're like, all right, well, I guess I'll just call it Cotton Eye Joe Simulator or something. I don't know. We'll make my funny dumb tweet for the day. But yeah, like, I think when they announced the idea for it, it's like an immediate awesome, and then you're like, oh. Because, like, if you say this about Dark Road, it's an instant sell for, like, any Kingdom Hearts fan. Go back to hot Xehanort, hot Ericus. Check out all of his hot friends. They're doing hot boy shit all summer. It's great. You're going to learn all about that chess game. You are going to be wet for that chess game. And then you just say, also, it's part of the mobile game. It's this optional story in the mobile game. Be like, get out of here. I don't want to play your mobile game to play hot boy chess. Yeah. Like, they literally could have released the chessboard that Ericus and them play on in a little instructional booklet of his story, and that would have been a better way to tell Dark Road story than throwing it onto the mobile game everyone was already ignoring. So does everyone remember what happened after Kingdom Hearts Dark Road released? It died. It died. Yeah, boy. I mean, it's too bad, outside of me, Mike Wazowski and Ericus, it's too bad that, like, it released, it was fine, but, like, I wonder if you, like, worked on that game, if that, like, feels really, like, you know, they must have fought for it really hard to keep that version alive in the download. Like, dude, the story's not even a year old when they killed it. Like, they killed it after, like, 9 months, so they were like, okay, like, let's do something. Also, if you can see my mouse here, if anyone remembers what X-Trays is, you get all the Kingdom Hearts fan points. Does anyone remember what this was for? Yeah, they had the old, like, Game & Watch minigames for it for 3 that they were like, if you do this horribly long amount of time to get this special Keyblade, which will definitely not make you pay for DLC later if you don't want, they actually had to limit to make it easier before Kingdom Hearts 3 because the recommendation for it was so high, it was just an immediate turnoff of like, all right, you got to pay 3 hours of this 2-button black and white minigame, which is great, and I love that it was on the phone, but yeah, having it kind of just stuck there in the bottom left of the corner is like, yeah, it's there. It's also in Kingdom Hearts 3, but much like a lot of Union Key, people just kind of sadly forgot. But I think Union Key succeeded as being a great mobile game, but just failed tremendously in terms of interesting Kingdom Hearts fans. Now, I'm kind of curious for you all. Do you think, was it because it was a mobile game? Was it because of how the story was presented? Like, what about it, like, kept people... Like, what is it about the key games that just... I think, unless a really rabid fan base are busy over the next couple of years, like, why is this such a quiet part of the fan base? I feel like Kingdom Hearts is so popular... Mobile games so popular, gotcha trash so popular. Where did it go wrong?
When I played it, I got so tired of doing the filler missions.
You mean 80% of the story?
It's just like, I just want to know more of the story. The story seems so interesting, but it's like, oh, hey, I gotta, go to the Dwarf one again for the 80th time.
Yeah, the filler was like Phyllis Diller filler levels of bad. That was a bad one for sure.
Basic and page 2, but infinitely worse.
Do you want to expand on it a little bit, or like how so though?
You have to start with page 2, which is like Twilight Town, Hollow Bastion, and then nothing.
I love Mulan. What do you mean nothing?
You get Hollow Bastion 2, and then nothing.
I would give you replaying every world in Kingdom Hearts 2 is definitely filler. I would not say immediately after Hollow Bastion is filler. That's a little harsh. But hey, yeah, to each their own. But yeah, Union Key, I miss you. Dark Road, I forgot I missed you, but it at least gave us some good JPEGs to look at. So, next up in Kingdom Hearts news, this one was almost weirder of like, I thought this was going to be a way bigger deal than it ended up being. Has anyone played Kingdom Hearts on PC since it released? Do you guys like the PC version? I'm a console plebe and I just kind of touch it barely.
I have seen so many mods.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the most fun thing to play the game with, like, you go to Twilight Town and there's Thomas the Tank Engine. Or like Sora wearing all that red or whatever. I saw someone recently turn either Donald or Goofy into, and I mean this is cringy, but one of the astronaut things from Among Us.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. It is wonderful to play with all the mods. It is just for that, I would say, worth the purchase, just because it is.
Well, and it's funny too because it unlocks a lot of like potentially fun stuff. Like I remember one of the first things I wanted to see with the PC versions was I wanted to see what Quadratum looked like outside of its like fighting game limits. Of like, let's see what this like city's like, because they're not just. It's not like they just made a circle and like a JPEG circle around you or whatever for it. So it was like fun to check out stuff like that for it. I will say an interesting anecdote. One of the reasons the PC version took so long to come out was because Disney was so scared of mods, of like, oh my god, what are they going to do to like our beloved characters and stuff for it? And it's like, yeah, but it's like it's one of those things of like, I mean, any game's going to have that problem. It doesn't matter if it's PC. It's like, for the most part, it's been nothing but good things for it. Hilariously, the only real negative, I think, that might have had something to do with the fact that not a lot of people checked it out was anyone turned off by the PC one because it was an Epic Game Store exclusive. Is it just because, like, I don't like Epic, I don't want to download another launcher, or?
It's partially because it was Epic, well, mostly because it was Epic, but also because they released it as like 3 parts each for $60. If they released it all in one big bundle for like $80, I might have considered downloading Epic for it, but
I get that. I mean, at the very least, I was glad of, like, all at once. They didn't kind of drag everyone out. Like I could have easily seen them do 1.5, $20. 3 months later, 2.5, $20. 2.8, $20, and then 3 for like 30 or 40 or 60 or whatever. So I was glad they at least like kind of all released it at once. For future titles, obviously, because we also got Melody of Memory, so all the games are on all the systems now, as long as you don't have a Switch. Is anyone thinking? Actually, I just show of hands. Who here plays all of Kingdom Hearts, for the most part, on PlayStation? Okay. And then who here plays on non-PlayStation or would plan on playing on non-PlayStation platforms on future titles? Okay. Because, yeah, one of the other things I wanted to bring up was ports, and was curious about what you guys think for future titles, because really we're not going to be getting as many spin-offs as we used to. I think they're conceding their focus a lot more on the future, which is smart. Both ports, the only ones we really have left is the Nintendo Switch. My question is kind of going back to Melody of Memory. If they just release these all tomorrow, regular price as they are now on Switch, is that going to make a divot? Are people going to care? Is someone going to go back? Because, like, for me, it's like I love playing these games. I can play them a million billion times, but just having another place to... Yeah, like playing it again is like, it's not like going to like melt my brain, especially just because I know the Switch versions will be fine. But it's like a great example of Danganronpa. Danganronpa is finally coming to Switch this year. I love Danganronpa. I could care less about Danganronpa coming to Switch for it. Yeah, that's pretty much everyone's saying. Yes. Mm-hmm. That would have been way more fun with 2.8. Exactly. I'll say this: if they want to have like a big PP energy, release the Switch port, and the only thing different, if you buy all three, you get a HD version of the GBA version of Chain of Memories. That's the only thing they should do. Because I have such a weird like nostalgia boner for that version. Like I love the sprite art. I know Chain of Memories is like much like every spinoff, very contagious. But yeah, Chain of Memories, the 2D version. I love the 3D one, but just something about like watching like 2D cards going all over the place just really gets me going.
I think the biggest thing about the Switch is the fact that you can play it anywhere. It's a lot different than PC because with PC you have a laptop, but I'm not going to be tugging around my 3080 like gigantic brick around and playing drop distance. So the Switch, yeah. But since like the Switch, it doesn't 3DS is more accessible now, especially with the I think if they talk about Switch tomorrow, it still has a market because people are going to play it on the go and having it more accessible than the 3DS or the 3DS system.
I get that. And another weird possibility, because I know no one actually wants this, but I feel like if it came to Switch, there'd be one immediate follow-up that I don't think people would be happy with, but I can't imagine not happening. I don't see 3 ever happening on Switch anytime soon, just because 3 is really, really powerful. But the other games in the series, I wonder how people would feel if it came to Switch, it was immediately followed up with a mobile release. Because I could see them being like, listen, if you kids will play Genshin, you'll play Kingdom Hearts 2 on your phones. So it's like, if Square Enix is willing to charge me $17 for a pixel HD port of Final Fantasy VI, I feel like they would charge like $20 for Kingdom Hearts on phones. And there's a way huger audience on phones than Switch by comparison. But then would anyone here actually like be masochistic enough to touch Kingdom Hearts on their phone? I appreciate it. It's people like you experimenting. That's what we need. We need more people like that. So here's the fun part of the panel. The future. Also, art definitely not by me. I literally just Googled Kingdom Hearts 4, and this person came up from DeviantArt. Their name is Sora Princess. This art was like so perfect. I was like, this is like literally just like cover bait. Yes.
I actually remember something.
Yeah.
When this photo came out, everybody, on like comments about everybody thought it was real. And people, I think I did a Fool's Day thing showing this to my friends in the group chat, and some of them believed me. I felt so bad, but like, I think the artist had to like make a statement or something.
Oh, really?
This is not real art. I appreciate everything like
The funny thing is, I don't know what this like says about how old I am. I remember being baited on April Fool's Day, the day before April Fool's, so Japanese April Fool's Day. Before the HD collections were even announced, there was a rumor, like literally almost a decade ago or something. It was called Kingdom Hearts Greater Than 3. And it was because it was like, oh, it's the road to 3 greater than 3 looks like a heart because greater than 3. And I remember like I saw this release at, like, because I was doing news at the time for a Kingdom Hearts site because that's the life I wanted to live. And what was so funny about it was it all made way too much sense, and that's how I know there should have been red flags. It was like, it's going to be Kingdom Hearts 1, 2 Final Mix, all these, they're remaking 358, they're remaking Recoded, like, they're going to, like, give you a free house, they're going to give you a free car, Oprah's going to give you the copy of the game herself, and at the end, if you platinum all of them, it's going to give you Kingdom Hearts 3 for free. I'm like, dang, this collection looks great. I better post this and not do any looking at my calendar, and I greatly regretted that. Yeah, it was one of those weird ones of like, because I think it was circling around my news group friends, I was like, well, if my other friends are dumb enough for this, clearly it must be true. So, yeah. So, if anyone does not know, there will be no other new Kingdom Hearts anything this year. Nomura was very clear about it, which actually I really appreciated. He told us this all the way last year with Melody of Memory. He was like, there's nothing next year, which I think might be just part of him being like, listen, I'm still trying to barely release Final Fantasy VII. I don't want to do anything else with this. There's a whole other team doing other things, which I appreciated. But yeah, so no news this year. Honestly, I haven't really minded it. It's been nice to kind of just like have that year off of like, it's been so much time looking back at other things, other series kind of keeping me busy. Has anyone here been the opposite? Was anyone here sad there's been nothing this year, that we're not getting any new releases, no new ports, no nothing? So yeah, like the no news with it, I can get it, but I think especially for Square Enix as well, they really don't need it. Like, I think if they could live the rest of their lives releasing every other year Kingdom Hearts something, Final Fantasy something, Dragon Quest something, they would probably be happy and make a lot more money than they do releasing Avengers and stuff. So they're doing their best there. Now, that said, this one again made me feel very old. Next year we will be getting news because the series is turning 20, which is really odd because does anyone remember how they celebrated turning 10? Just go back 10 years ago. What Kingdom Hearts game released in 2012? Dream Drop Distance. Imagine, like, guys, the 3DS exclusive, which, hey, I'm on the weird camp of, as someone who owns way too many 3DSs and actually doesn't love the system that much, I think the system, like, peaked with that game. No 3DS game ever looked better than Dream Drop Distance. It worked great in 3D. It was super duper smooth. You got to play a short lesbian haircut Riku. It had something for everybody. So I was a huge fan of Dream Drop, and I just thought it was so funny of like, oh, it's the culmination title of blah blah blah, and like it kind of worked, it kind of didn't. It was like at the time, if you remember us sad, desperate Kingdom Hearts 3 fans, that was the closest to 3 we were like ever gonna get. But what was so funny about everything was, all of that aside, we didn't really get much else. I will say this. They did do a 10 out of 10 bait job. Does anyone remember what happens at the end of the credits of Dream Drop Distance?
They had showed one of the organizations members after all of that and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like also the other weird thing that I thought was super fun, especially as someone who likes dumb credit mini games, is if you collected all of the letters, they had a special message at the end, which unless you were in a coma or something, literally in Kingdom Hearts mumbo jumbo was Nomura saying 3's being made, announced at E3 like the next year, HD collections coming out next year, which was like really all people needed of like announce 3's coming. Don't tell them how long that's going to take, and then just start doing HD collections for the rest of your life until it's out. Which, God bless them. Think about it. At the time, we went from 2012, no news on Kingdom Hearts 3, to like 9 re-releases later, and finally Kingdom Hearts 3. Which, hey, some people may not say was worth the wait, but I am one of those dum-dums who think it was worth the wait. So, important question times for the future. And please, if anyone has any questions, theories, or whatever, please get them out here for it. Who do we play in Kingdom Hearts 4? Also, it's probably not really going to be called Kingdom Hearts 4. Anyone have any guesses? Educated takes. Xehanort? Really? Why? That would be cool, but Nomura has said for like the last 900 years that the end of the Xehanort saga was the end of the... So if they started the new saga with him, that'd be like some Metal Gear Solid 2 bait. Yes, you in the back. Okay, yes.
I know at the end of Remind they mentioned like the birth by sleep, the Wayfinder trio, they were going off in one area, the Sea Salt trio was going in another area, and Riku and Kairi. So what I would think is maybe upgrading if Riku and Sagrada, if that's still the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh.
really want more character development with Kairi, so maybe we play as her, and maybe it's just the fan art, maybe we do that, but then also if we divide it by trios, like basically play as one of the characters from each trio, like we've had Roxas, and then we've had Aqua.
I feel like we were saying that for 3. Like, everyone's here. We've got to play as all of them. It makes the most sense. Yes.
But anyway, as long as it includes a character creator and a character costume-like style, I'm going apeshit.
Well, so you're saying you'd go apeshit if it does have a character creator?
Yes.
Okay, no, yeah, I get that. At this point, no offense, I don't want any OCs in Kingdom Hearts. Like, just give me your OCs. I don't need to make like. Well, I'd say you could customize outfits to the extent ability, but like I think like especially in a with how much the story has changed. If like 4 is like you're Joe Schmo living his life in Quadratum and you run into Spiky Hair Zipper Pants friends and have fun with them. Like no, I don't want that. Like you gotta make everyone play as someone.
I just wanted to include good character development with some of the same old characters, and include some crossover.
Okay, yeah, I get me with the crossover. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
I think we're going straight to Zora, honestly. Like that final cutscene at the end of Remind where he was kind of saying the same thing that Roxas did, back in Kingdom Hearts 2. I think maybe Zora might do some sort of like, not saying half version of Zora, but it might be kind of like an alternate version of Zora.
I mean, I'm like one step away with Yuzora of like just make Final Fantasy Versus 13 starring Yuzora, and I'd be fine with that. I have a weird theory / kind of almost problem because I think people wouldn't be happy about this, but the most realistic answer to me with 4 is going to be 4 is not going to be one game. 4 is going to be split up across others because like just being honest, if they weren't going to do multiple playable characters in 3, I don't think they're going to start with 4. And I have the feeling that it's going to be like similar, like you were saying, just give their own game to each team. Give us a Twilight team. Give us a Birth by Sleep team. Like they are all deep enough characters for their own story. Because like for me, I'm someone who I loved that Birth by Sleep was its own game, and like I loved like that we got each kind of own thing with it. I loved 358 from a story perspective, definitely way more than gameplay. But it's like having those times to really dig deep with those characters, as opposed to throwing in a little bit here, throwing in an extra boss here. And then for 4, I think, yes, the safe answer for sure would either be like Yuzora or Sora. But I think the game, if not like the developers, I think they like deserve it to, what was it? No, they owe it to Kairi and Riku. I think if you made it like a buddy cop story of these two going after their shared boyfriend / husband, and they have to like rescue Sora from equally hot Yuzora's like clutches or something, I think that would be good. Of like, because I can see 4 literally, if they wanted to just kind of be like crazy, be like, hey, don't call this 4, obviously still it's be called Kingdom Hearts. Like, if they really wanted to go hog wild, just make the whole game in Quadratum. Have Quadratum just be this weird nightmare mash of real-world Roger Rabbit Disney characters all over the place. Gritty, open-world thingy like that. Focus it all in one thing. Because, like, I think kind of looking at what happened with 3, is I love that 3 kept that world thing from 2, and I loved the worlds. I thought the choices were great, but we kind of got to that point of all the complaints I ever hear from the worlds in Kingdom Hearts 3, people could also say about 2. Like, I don't like Frozen, so the Frozen world sucks. It's like, okay, cool. If you don't like Pirates of the Caribbean in 2, you're definitely not going to like it in 3. Oh, my bad. Sorry, I have a giant microphone in my face.
Who the next playable character is, I'm just going to throw an oddball out there. It's just going to be a new form of Sora. Because they just keep doing that, and they're just going to introduce a new enemy type of thing. So instead of Roxas, it'll be Soraz. And
No, it's going to be Roxas is Nobody's Heartless.
yes, nothingness.
And he is still voiced by Jesse McCarthy for no reason. He's like, dude, I gotta get a paycheck. It's been rough these last couple of years. Think of it. That man's life, he's just living off of I want candy money and Kingdom Hearts 2 checks. That's his whole life. So other ones. Will Kairi fans be disappointed? Because, like, let's be real. If you walked away from Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, and somehow the game where she's on the cover, Melody of Memory, which, again, spoilers, way to make her the person on the cover, and she can't even fight the final boss. But, hey, girl boss power, I guess. I guess the important thing is, let's be real. Yeah, Kairi fans will probably be disappointed. Let's ask an easier question. How can we not disappoint Kairi fans in 4? The bar is so low. They'll take anything. They'll take, like, whatever. Like, I don't think they're brave enough to make her the lead in her own game. Also, God knows they're not consistent enough in giving her a voice actor, so who even knows who'd be... Danny DeVito might be Kairi in 4. Who knows? But, like, what could we do to, like, justice for Kairi, if nothing else?
I would like, and not necessarily a game, but like entire story arc where like he goes off with Shin and Naka and gets like talking time with other like females that don't get enough attention.
They're just gonna make a spin-off game called like the like we can get girls in the game for it. I mean, I would love that because literally all the girl characters in Kingdom Hearts are amazing. Like it just kind of sucks that like unless your name's Aqua, all the girls are kind of just like pushed to the sidelines. Because like what sucks is I could see someone looking at Shion and like, Shion's like a lame like Sora copy or whatever. Be like, bro, I have bawled my eyes out to this girl's theme song. I don't even need to look at her to cry. I will cry just listening to her 13-minute like overture. That's a good point, yeah. Having it leave off with her training against someone who's competent. Let's be real. Whoever was in charge of giving Yen Sid, Axel, and Kairi, what a dumb move. What's this old bag of bones going to teach them? He shoved them in a forest for 3 months. And they couldn't. What were they eating? Ice cream the whole time? Well, like, and the fact that Yen Sid taught them, I'm like, you all don't care about these characters this much. They did such a bad job training that Axel just went, nah, I'll just go back to my old weapon. I don't even need to use this thing.
Recently, I actually found, I know this is kind of tangent, but we go somewhere.
This whole panel's a tangent. No apologies needed.
So, I actually found an old email with like backwards and proper distance out, and I was ranting to my friend about, oh my god, I'm gonna make Kyrie important. Did you see that ending scene? And like she's there, oh my gosh, but she looks like she's gonna like hook someone up. Let's go. She's finally gonna get like her moment. Let's go. This is gonna be awesome. Kyrie's gonna do such a great job, and then
3 more games of being cucked. They've ended Kyrie's story the last 3 games the same. Guys, she's got it. She's girl boss and hard in the next one. Just wait. Yeah.
But the way that they made Kyrie in that was really cool. And if they even just like had some sort of like awesome moveset
I don't even think it's like... I think the sad part is they've done so little that even like something like... Honestly, like for me, Kyrie's highlight of her participation in the whole series for me is easily the ending of Remind. Like her fighting with Sora, then basically just like tag team dance fighting against Xehanort, like was just such a great like thing for it. And it was just like, I loved that. But also from a character standpoint, it's just the lowest, like it's the barest of the bare minimum. Like the only way they could do worse is if her name was Naminé. Naminé fans get dogged on so bad that they don't even get brought up in the bad girl treatment argument. Like that, I feel bad for Naminé lovers.
You know, I saw a lot of people talking about, you know, Sora and Smash Bros. But what if they did a Elite and then screwed Kyrie?
Just for the fact that would mean a Kyrie amiibo, I'd be in for that, like 300%. Just do a Kyrie amiibo only. Next other important question, very important question. Will Sora and Riku finally kiss? They don't have to get married. They don't got to be like full homo, but like they've got to, like they owe each other like one kiss. So like make it a QTE, make it a optional side quest. It's like he's only going to kiss it if you go out of your way and you get the Ultima weapon. The final Orichalcum Plus is in between Riku's tight boy lips. Like that's all you got to do to get the Ultima weapon. That's all you got to do. It's really easy. But if you don't want it, then just beat the game with that. It's fine. It's totally fine. But yeah, they've got to kiss. It's been too long. But one thing's really for sure. Even though there is going to be more news next year, I still think the next, whatever it is, spinoff, I don't know if it's going to be 4 legit or however they're going to do it, I think we're going to hear about it next year. I still think it is still very far as a way off. I don't think it's 3 lane, because yeah, the way I put it here, it's going to release much faster than 3, but that's a really low bar because it was announced in 2013 and released 7 years later. Was 7 years later? Right? No. Again, 6 years later, because it released in 2019. So it's not going to be that long. They have a system they're used to working with. They're most likely going to use Unreal again. It's going to be on cool hardware and stuff like that. But I was curious for like what all of you guys might think of, like realistically, whatever the next game is, whether it be 4, spinoff, Cooking Mama spinoff, minigame, real estate owner. When is the soonest you all think we're going to get it? Because I think we're going to get it next year, but my guess is 2023 at the earliest, because I can't imagine it being ready for next year with the state of the world. 24? They're gonna make us wait like 4 years for a game? Man, if they actually like did again that much more time, all power to them. I would love that, but I think at the end of the day, Square Enix is like, hey, we still gotta make money, dog.
I actually agree with that. It could be a lot longer, just because Unreal would be Unreal 5, and then it could be moving assets all the way around.
I'm not ready for Unreal Engine 5 Donald. Like, Unreal Engine 4, Donald and Goofy in the Pirates world, unsettlingly real. Unreal Engine 5, I'm gonna, like, be tasting his, like, feathers.
I'm actually working in Unreal Engine 5 right now. It's
Humble brag. Give me the Unreal Engine 5, man. Need to get in on that. That's true. This is the farthest I go with the PC, is not being able to do this properly well. But I want 2024 to be true, but I think the loudness of the fans and everything is going to stop that from being true. But it's like, I want games to take as long as they need, but I know that people don't want to wait as long as fans have to pay for it. You in the back? I don't know if I 100% agree with that, but I'm one of the weirdos with Final Fantasy VII Remake, where I think Part 2 is so far off because they want to make a really big chunk of that game because it's just going to be a big, dumb open world. Which, hey, by the way, I have a Final Fantasy VII panel at some point this weekend. I don't know what day it is. I'm sure it's sometime. But hey, if you like Final Fantasy, you probably like Kingdom Hearts, blah, blah, blah. Anyone have any thoughts on it, though? Because I'm just curious. Anyone want to bet, maybe like show of hands, who thinks Final Fantasy VII Part 2 Remake will be out before the next Kingdom Hearts game? You are all so much more optimistic than I thought. I love that. I love the optimism. That's great. I think that is pretty much it for what I had. But the floor is kind of open for whatever you guys have. We've got like another like 10 or whatever until they kick us out minutes. Any questions, things they want to bring up, loud things they want to shout at each other? What's up? That's not fair. Kyrie and Naminé will have their crossover game before Yandere Simulator is made. That's a very, very low bar. We have to be better than that.
What do you think is going to be in the next Kingdom Hearts game? Do you think they're going to skip Disney altogether?
No, they would never skip. They've dogged on Disney. No, they've actually doubled down on Disney more than I thought. The question I'm wondering, I hope they go back to Final Fantasy, because I think the fact that we went through all of 3 with no Cloud and Sephiroth redemption was bad. Like,
It'd be really cool if they like kind of like an alternate Square games.
they just do like the B Squad games. Like they're gonna do like Chrono Cross.
Aura style games and stuff, like suddenly like you get thrown into Xenogear, you get thrown into
I would give prominence to like they're going to do other Square games, but because they've literally shown that they can't remember that the World Ends With You characters are canon, I have less faith, because like when they introduced like the World Ends With You characters, I'm like, yes, this is great. This is such a good combination. And then Nomura just was like, oh, I don't know, man. Give him a sequel in another game. Yeah, so I think that would be cool. Maybe from like I always thought like with RPGs, it's a lot easier to just do like for easy collab points. Just save all the super bosses for the collabs. That's why I always loved Sephiroth being a super boss. I'm like, does he need to make sense in the story? God, no. But look at him. He's voiced by Lance Bass. Let's go for it. It's crazy. Whereas like now it's like you look at super bosses, like some of the more underwhelming ones, people always forget. Who remembers evil, really big Pete from Dream Drop Distance? That's like all-time low, like super boss. And I mean, I'm a super hardcore like Disney fan. I loved that they had him. Like, that's a really deep cut for Disney. But Kingdom Hearts fans aren't going for Disney deep cuts and super bosses, especially when he's the only one in the whole game. So, like, I think if they even wanted to go, like, crazy stuff, like, seriously, one that, like, wouldn't make any sense, but is just, like, how have you not done it? You've collabed with Final Fantasy. Why not Dragon Quest? Dragon Quest and Kingdom Hearts are equally jolly. Like, you could throw any Dragon Quest protagonist with Sora, and they would be, like, best friends by the end of the day.
Honestly, I think if Kingdom Hearts is going to do like a collab or something, I could see like a big Kingdom Hearts Persona.
I could see it, but it's in that thing of, I think both brands would work with each other in an instant. The problem is where. I can't see it working in a game, because I feel like Atlas would be like, make us our own game or nothing at all. Because like, Atlas will sleep with anybody. They'll collab with me to be in my mobile game or whatever. Like, they'll work with anyone in a mobile game, but I think for a console game, they're much more picky with it. Like, looking at something, kind of going off book a little for you, but like, look at like the spin-off for Persona 5 Strikers, developed by a whole different company, collaboration with Koei Tecmo. That game was in development longer than Royal. Like, that game was in development a crazy long time, and that was something they put a lot of focus into, because like they treat their console games really, really special. And I think Kingdom Hearts and Square Enix are definitely in that boat of, I think, more realistic cameos. And again, if anyone remembers this deep cut, you guys are all just the coolest fans ever. Does anyone remember the first Kingdom Hearts collab that Square Enix had with Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts officially in a game? World of Final Fantasy as timed exclusive DLC. Little chibi baby Sora, he was like he was so cute. It's okay. Everyone forgets about World of Final Fantasy. Don't worry. It's like one of my all-time favorites. Don't worry. I don't feel bad. But yeah. Oh, yes.
I was gonna say, as far as like crossovers they could easily do, I mean, they just implemented time travel with this last one, so they could do Chrono Cross, Chrono Trigger. Yeah.
True.
They're not using a whole lot of like previous games. Like I got really excited when they did World Ends With You, even though they spoiled it.
Yeah.
Like there were spoilers in that chapter, so I didn't like that. But they do Threads of Fate, Great Threads of Musashi, all of the other games.
Just say Urgies while you're at it. There's an Urgies with Olympus Coliseum combination.
Great Threads of Musashi is my favorite game of all time, so I'd be down for it. But like they have all these like J action RPGs that they could use that they're just sitting on, and they could easily just dump that into Kingdom Hearts and no one would bat an eye.
Oh, here's an easy one that they could do, is not mobile trash, and people would flip over. And I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet. Kingdom Hearts not being in Final Fantasy XIV boggles my mind to no extent. Final Fantasy XIV has collabed with Yokai Watch. They'll do it with anybody, man. They'll be like they're again, like they're like, hey, go for it, because it's an MMO. Like, the stakes are super low with 14, so it's like everyone's happy with anything with that. It's like Monster Hunter. No one's going to be mad at Monster Hunter having the widget. They had the Monster Hunter movie collab with the game. Everyone hated that movie. No one cares. It's just free content.
We're talking realistic. I can definitely see them, and not just as a fan, but I can definitely see them doing something with like Nier. Because Nier itself is all about like multiple timelines and universes and stuff like that.
I feel like the asterisk would be the Nier mobile game and never any of the mainline games, though.
Well, like 2K itself is already in Final Fantasy 14. There's already like official lore to kind of connect those two. So
That I think the 14 connection is only a little bit more special just because Yoko Taro was so involved.
Yeah.
Like, he literally like worked on that collab. Whereas like looking at like Yoko Taro probably didn't play test 2B and Soul Calibur. I wish. I want that to be true, but he probably didn't. You had something?
I think that one argument to just incorporate more titles into Kingdom Hearts is just like take random characters from other stories, even Disney properties, and just have them in the background as DC. You don't even need to give them voice, like actual voice lines. You can just have like Shanti, Seymour, and Twilight Town or something.
That's tough, because I get it. Like, you could include like a shotgun of Easter eggs really easy, but I remember even people complaining way back with Cage 2 of like Scrooge McDuck not being voiced until Birth by Sleep. There were fans mad about that. They're like, how dare you voice Minnie and Daisy and not the guy from fucking DuckTales? You're gonna disrespect Scrooge McDuck like that? But it's like, there's like, unless they like, I can't even think, like, I feel like the more obscure you get with Disney, the more weird the fans are going to be. They're not in there. So that's the tough part. I think with Final Fantasy, you could definitely do that, because some of those games aren't even voiced. But with like Disney, it's like when the character gets recast in a Disney movie, it's like, unless they're perfect, like a David Tennant going back to Scrooge McDuck, unless it's something like that, like Disney fans are just really anal. Like, we're talking about fans, like, they traded a human being's life at Disney for Oswald the Lucky Rabbit to come back. That's like the level of dedication. The Disney values IP higher than human beings employed in their company. So like, it's a weird world, but we're all sadly just along for the ride to buy all the merchandise for it or anything. I will say, last recommendation before I kind of tail out, unless anyone has anything else they want to ask or say. If you are into Kingdom Hearts, I highly recommend things that never get enough love. The Kingdom Hearts novels are really, really good. The Kingdom Hearts manga is 10 out of 10 chef's kiss good. The art is astounding. They take a new, interesting take on all the, like, Sora feels like a different Sora while still feeling like his usual stuff. It's really goofy when it needs to. It's still going to make you cry when it wants to. And Yen Press published all the old ones back originally, and I think they're even still doing Kingdom Hearts 3 right now. So there's a ton, like, they've done them for all the games. So there's, like, novels and everything for Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories 2, Birth by Sleep, I think even like Dream Drop Distance. Like, they have one for pretty much all of them, and I feel like it's one of the most like least discussed Kingdom Hearts things ever, which, I mean, hey, we're Americans. God forbid I have to read text in front of me from a piece of paper for 8 hours, but it's a good piece of paper. If you guys ever get bored, there's bookstores all over the place. Please check them out. Also, if you ever look at Kingdom Hearts 2, because they had to stack all the volumes, they are hilariously thick. Like, Kingdom Hearts 2 Volume 4 is like this thick. The spine looks like it's going to break if you look at it long enough, and it's just fantastic. But yeah, that was my panel. Thank you all so much for coming, and if you actually stayed the whole time, I love and appreciate you all greatly. Enjoy the rest of your convention. I literally got here 3 minutes before this panel started, so I have no idea what the show floor looks like, but I hope you all have a great convention. So thank you all for coming.